In this video, we're going to go over the steps involved in solving quadratic inequalities. A quadratic inequality is of this form: ax squared plus bx plus c. And it might be greater than 0, it might be less than 0, but that's the inequality part. There are always two steps to these. The first step is to factor if possible. If you can't factor, then you can always use the quadratic formula. Actually, you can always use the quadratic formula, but if you can factor, it's faster. The second step is to sketch a graph and the zeros to determine the interval. So let's try this with this first problem. We have x squared plus 7x plus 12 greater than 0. We also want to know when it's less than or equal to 0. But to solve this problem, we're going to start off with this equation, x squared plus 7x plus 12, and we're going to find when does it equal 0. And we're going to do this by factoring. So factors of 12 that add to 7 are going to be 4 and 3. And we then get that x equals -4 or -3. These are our x-intercepts. So if we draw our x-axis right here, which is at y equals 0, we can put in our x-intercept at -4 and our x-intercept at -3. And we look right here and we can see that it's positive out front. So the parabola opens up. And now we're ready to answer the questions over here. So our first question asks us, when is it greater than 0? Well, it's going to be greater than 0 when we're above the x-axis. So this part right here and this part right here. So our answer is from -infinity to -4, it's greater than 0. Also from -3 to infinity. The next part asks, when is it less than or equal to 0? Well, it's equal to 0 at these two spots, and it's less than when we're underneath the x-axis. So our answer is going to include square brackets because we've got the equal sign. It includes -4, and everything in between -4 and -3, it also includes -3. All right, so let's try this with a little bit harder problem. We're going to be factoring again, and we're going to use that diamond method here as we factor. So 3 times -2 gives me -6. The number in the middle is -1. So I want factors of -6 that add to -1. So let's see, -3 and 2, that'll multiply to -6, add to -1. So I've got 3x squared. I rewrite this -x as minus 3x plus 2x. I get that part from these numbers right here. And then I write my -2 on the end, less than or equal to 0. Out of these first two terms, I'm going to factor out a 3x, and I get x minus 1. And out of the next two, I'm going to factor out 2, and I'm left with x minus 1. And now I can factor out x minus 1. So I have x minus 1, and I'm left with 3x plus 2. And you'll recall we're actually interested right now in when does it equal 0. So we're going to figure out, all right, x equals 1, because that'll make this thing equal 0. And 3x equal to -2, or x equals -2/3. So we're going to solve this part for when is it equal to 0. And we're going to draw a picture here. So if we draw our picture, -2/3 and 1. Our parabola opens up because we have a positive 3 out front. So when we're asked to find when is it less than or equal to 0, well, it's equal to 0 at these two spots, and it's less than in between. So our answer is going to be everything from -2/3 to 1. And there's our final answer right there. Now, if you weren't able to factor this, you can actually still do this with the quadratic formula. So I'm going to show you how that looks with the quadratic formula. If we do our -b over 2a, this is the same problem, we would get -1 over 2 times 3, or 1 over 6. And then we could do the b squared minus 4ac all over 2a portion. And let's see, b squared is -1 squared, which is 1, minus 4 times 3 times -2 all over 2 times 3. And we would get, let's see, that would be 4 times 3 is 12, times 2 is 24, two negatives, so it's going to be 1 plus 24, over 6, and we get the square root of 25 over 6, and we can take the square root of 25. That's 5 over 6. So our x-intercepts in this case are going to be at 1/6 plus or minus 5/6. So to get the two x-intercepts, we're going to do 1/6 plus 5/6, which equals 6/6, which equals 1. And we're going to do 1/6 minus 5/6, which equals negative 4/6, which equals negative 2/3. Now you'll recall those are the same two numbers we had before. So those are our x-intercepts. Once again, we say, okay, negative 2/3, positive 1, parabola opens up. We want to know when is it less than or equal to. And here we go. Here's our answer. Everything from negative 2/3 to 1. All right, we're going to look at one more problem. And that is this one, where we've got negative 2x squared plus 8x is greater than 0. Here we don't have a trinomial, but we do look at these two terms, and we can see we can factor out a negative 2x out of both of them. And we're left with x minus 4. Now remember, like before, we're going to solve when this equals 0. And it's going to equal 0 from right here, when x equals 0, and from this factor, when x equals 4. So we draw our parabola. Our x-intercepts are at 0 and 4, but this parabola starts with a negative, which means it's going to open down. So when we're looking to see when is it greater than, it is greater than when it's above the x-axis. So our final answer for this one is going to be from 0 to 4. Notice there's no equal sign, so no square bracket.